In the Meiji era, Tsugaru Shinichi fights and kills monsters in the ring, much to the audience's delight. However, he is still some circus property, so he is treated like a tool. One day, he notices a maid, Shizuku Hase, carrying a golden birdcage, following him around. Because of his curiosity and touching the birdcage, Shizuku attacks him with the intention to kill. Tsugaru is skilled enough, and Shizuku is impressed. He knows that he is half Oni and will die soon because of that blood that flows inside. While it gives him the power to kill any monsters, it will soon consume him. It is revealed the one talking is the severed head in the birdcage, Aya Rindu. She is here to make a deal with him. She can extend his life if he kills her. Aya claims she has been immortal for 947 years. However, 6 months ago, an old foreigner fool took her body. However, an immortal is supposed to regenerate its body, so why can't she? The Oni power. It can nullify powers, and she was cut by one. But that Oni was incomplete, and since its power was halved, that's why this talking severed head. Aya poses the baffling question that despite wanting to die, he still wants to live. Long story short, despite knowing he will die, he wants to die in the best possible way. That is, he wants to turn into an Oni and kill everyone who views him as a tool for entertainment. That is why he declines her plan since it will extend his life. But she still wants him to do so since it is no fun without a body. Even if he accepts extending his life, he won't kill her. He notes she wants to get her body back, and that means she has a plan to return to normal. It also means she knows where her body is, very far away, in Europe. Tsugaru asks if this guy has a cane engraved with an M on it. Yes, because this is the same person who captured him and took away his humanity. Since Aya is the brain and the Tsugaru has the body to move about, their goals are aligned. To seal the deal, she needs to let him consume a body part to extend his life. Of course she won't let him eat her physical parts, as even bodily fluids like her saliva can do the job. The strange scene of an Oni guy kissing a severed head. In France, Jean-Duchet Goddard is a vampire as he goes hunting with his son, Raoulf. He tells him about the need to do things that would make them closer to being associated with humans. Everyone must learn to deal with humans, like it or not. When he returns home, he finds the storeroom padlock is broken. He inspects and sees a silver stake covered in blood. He calls for his family and servants. Then, to his horror, he finds his wife, Hannah, dead in her chair. Soon, this is all over the news, and as such, rumors are swirling about withdrawals from pro-human allies and those against it. The reporters try to get Goddard to say a word, but he ignores them until a young journalist, Annie Kerber, asks for his opinion. Goddard views this as social discrimination and is displeased at how the police are handling this case. Thus, he has already called a pair of famed supernatural private detectives to aid in this case. That lights up Annie since they are quite a famous pair known as Cage User and have solved supernatural cases in Norway and Belgium. Our detectives arrive and meet Goddard and his family. Obviously, the family is stumped when Tsugaru seems to be making strange verbal communication spats with the maid. Then the cat is out of the bag when they realize Aya is only a head. Aya has Goddard explain what happened and bring them to the crime scene. It is true a silver stake killed Hannah in her sleep, and there is also a bottle of holy water left behind. While vampires can heal, holy waters make their healing take weeks. Vampires are also weak against silver since going near without touching them has them feel a scalding effect. This as Aya poses a few questions that make the murder look strange. This includes leaving the holy water bottle behind. Why the culprit chose to attack at night instead of the day where vampires are considerably weakened and bother putting back the stake in the storeroom. As they stay and have dinner with the family, Aya soon shows her observation skills and describes the coachman's current family household based on the clothes he is wearing. Then she questions Goddard and his family as well as his servants for their alibi. The murder happened an hour after all had their lunch. Hannah retired to her room to rest while Claude, the eldest son, discussed town operations with his father before tending to Charlotte, the youngest daughter, and then handing her over to the maid, Giselle. Raoul thinks Aya suspects one of the family members, but she remains professional. In the end, those without a strong alibi are Claude and Alfred the butler. Goddard opposes that Claude would have any intention to kill his own mother. This interrogation is stopped when Charlotte becomes upset. Later, Claude gets rough with Tsugaru and warns him he could easily snap his neck if he steps out of line. However, Aya can tell he isn't the killer because his hands were clean. She was also observing everyone's hands during the meal, and they were all clean. She orders Shizuku to keep an eye on the servants and not let them out of their sight since they are the prime suspects. The detectives go hunting with Goddard to search for something, as the latter is adamant none of his family members are the killers. He is steadfast on this because he doesn't want to lose more family, as he has already lost 3 before coming to this city. Aya talks about the Oni that could kill the undead. Ironically, they are not strong, can be easily brought down, and have low intelligence. Thanks to mankind's purge, there are no Oni in their complete form today. Goddard is shot by an arrow of a vampire hunter. This doesn't even hurt him, so he hunts him down to teach this bugger a lesson and accuses him of killing Hannah. Aya won't let him be killed and asks a series of questions. She is sure he cannot be the killer since he just arrived in town. Apparently Joseph is here to avenge his friend, Hugo, who was killed by Goddard, although Goddard claimed he was attacked first. He also noted Hugo always had a stake, but is unsure if it's silver or not, and that he refused to let anyone see. Aya lets him go, seeing this guy is not strong enough to kill a vampire. Now she has all the pieces put together and wants the family to gather so she can make the ultimate revelation. Time to bring this murder farce to a close. Aya begins her explanation. The most important factor she brings to her argument is sound. Even if Hannah didn't scream, driving a stake into her would have produced a loud sound louder than hammering a nail. And those inside the mansion then didn't hear a thing. Then she brings up that there might be accomplices, and they have been in cohorts to fake their alibis. Aya then reveals the stake that killed Hannah isn't made of silver, but something else. This has her bring the bottle issue as the culprit left it there deliberately. So it goes, the culprit used the stake to kill Hannah, and then poured holy water over to melt it. Then collected Hannah's blood to put on the silver stake that was in the storeroom to make it look like a vampire hunter killed her. Hence the murder was committed before Goddard went hunting. Aya points out Raoulf as the killer. Despite using the stake and having burns on his finger, he then used a sword to cut it off. This eliminates the evidence, and he could regenerate a new hand immediately. Raoulf immediately attacks Aya, but Isugaru jumps in to fight. While they both duke it out, Aya continues to explain about Raoulf using the coldness of the forest to freeze the holy water. At this point, Goddard is in shock that his son is the culprit. Aya adds they can find plenty of evidence in Raoulf's room. We hear Raoulf rant how he is against this pro-human allies thingy. Since Mother was once human before turning into a vampire, he killed her to make it look like a human did it and make Dad change his mind. Since he is still deluded, he is going to kill everybody. Tsugaru beats this arrogant kid up as he explains about himself being part of the Oni slaying group in Japan. Raoulf can't even beat him as Tsugaru finishes him off. With the case closed, the detectives leave just as Annie arrives to get the scoop on the case. Although Tsugaru's experience and advice are that humans and monsters cannot coexist, Aya paints a more positive note. Even if Goddard's reputation is ruined, he can start again. They are after all immortal monsters. Aya then asks if he has seen a man with a fake right leg and a cane bearing M. In fact, he did visited Goddard recently and invited him to come along to London. Goddard refused due to family issues. Arsène Lupin kidnaps Eric, known as the Phantom of the Opera, because he is short-handed. He needs help to steal a valuable diamond from Phileas Fogg in London. Because of Lupin's letter, Fogg has hired renowned detectives and paid them to help protect his gem. This means our cage user detectives are also here. After getting some customer list in some shop, they stumble into Sherlock Holmes and John H. Watson. They were about to fight in the alley, but the policeman apprehended them. Once they know who they are swiftly brought to Fogg's mansion. Along with Inspector Lestrade, they are greeted by Fogg's servant, Passepartout, who shows them around his extensive museum and the artifacts and items he collected while traveling around the world. Meeting Fogg himself, he explains the diamond is so valuable. It is not displayed for public and kept safe in an underground vault. Joining this case are a pair of staff from Lloyd's security department, Reinhold Stinghart and Fatima Doubledarts. Lloyd's is a powerful insurance company with a massive history, and whatever incidents happen, They always give their word to protect their clients' insured property with absolute power. Fogg takes them to the vault and goes through a series of complex security measures to show them the diamond. It even has some supernatural legend, a fight between dwarves and werewolves. The dwarves used their technology to create this unbreakable gem and this pure silver safe. Holmes tries to take the lead as he analyzes the layout, possible entrances and exits here, and even the possibility that Lupin has already infiltrated among one of them. The investigation ends here as they leave. Aya believes she has a plan, but wonders if it will work because it seems stupid. When Watson wants to discuss plans with Holmes, his brother Mycroft can tell he is a fake because of his nails. With the real Holmes entering, the imposter reveals himself to be Lupin. This is just courtesy to demonstrate that Lupin can unlock any lock, and after that, Lupin escapes on Phantom's car. But soon they bump into Shizuku and pick her up. It seems she is looking for Aya. Earlier in the day, a careless mistake had the birdcage being swapped. Tsugaru is now holding one with a parrot. Mycroft discusses with Holmes. It is believed that they have no qualms about letting Lupin steal the jewel, as their main goal is to destroy the monster. They want to use the gem to find the werewolf and then pin the blame on Lupin. Holmes is certain he can wrest the diamond back if that happens. The innocent guy with the swapped cage is in shock to see a head and drops it off as Aya gets run over by a car. The delinquent twins want to sell her. Shizuku spots Aya's head in the car and a strange and short car chase until the twins crash. With Aya back in safe hands, Shizuku thanks the gentleman. However, Aya can tell they are Lupin and Phantom, and they too recognize the cage users. Since Tsugaru claims he is stronger than Lupin, the latter tests him out. Using his marble trickery, Tsugaru loses. Lupin then warns Aya not to get involved, but of course she knows it was all just a play. Time to head back to Fogg's house. Holmes meets Ganimard, who is Paris' chief police officer hired by Fogg. Just to be sure he isn't an imposter, he pulls his mustache. Fogg, Passaport out. Holmes, Watson, Lestrade, and Ganimard stay in the safe, while the Lloyds duo protects from the top. Holmes shoots all the locks. This is to prevent Lupin from picking. They may be trapped here for a while, and it might even take hours for a locksmith to get them out. But they won't die. At least all the exits are sealed, and this has made security foolproof. However, that will soon be their downfall as an explosion is heard and water from the moat starts flooding in from the vent above. It looks like Lupin really got them this time. The water rises nearly to the ceiling. A policeman seeks Lloyd's help, but Reinhold only sends Fatima. She destroys the door to let the water out. Once it is done, everyone notices the safe is gone. As everyone goes back up to dry themselves, Holmes then arrests Ganimard and reveals he is Lupin in disguise. It is revealed that when the water was gushing in, a rope was hidden in it to pull up the safe. However, Holmes notes, had he stolen the safe, he wouldn't have gotten the diamond, because it was left in Watson's pocket. Lupin has the last laugh since he has already stolen it and escaped using smokescreen. The whole place now scrambles to contain Lupin. Lupin meets Phantom in the greenhouse. They have both the gem and the safe. However, opening the safe, Aya is inside. She gives the signal as Tsugaru jumps in. Lupin seems to be shocked at Aya, and this proves he thought Annie, who was with them at that time, to be Aya. Also, it was Aya's instruction for Tsugaru to lose to him and for her to be put in the safe. Though she didn't anticipate the water part. It becomes a three-way fight for the diamond as Lupin, Tsugaru, and Reinhold tussle for this little piece. Aya orders Shizuku to go after Phantom, but she gets lost, and it is Fatima who hunts him down. Holmes and Watson arrive as they tell Aya the situation has changed. It seems Professor and his merry team of Aleister Crowley, Carmilla, Victor, and Jack the Ripper are here to cause havoc. Many policemen were dead and viciously killed off. Holmes, Watson, and Aya return to the main house and are faced with Aleister. Lestrade finds himself in Carmilla's company. He realizes she is a vampire, but is saved thanks to Shizuku dropping in. She is not interested in this fight and is only looking for Phantom. However, Carmilla won't let any kick her and get away with it. After all, Professor also gave them the orders to kill anyone that gets in their way. Lupin and Tsugaru work together to take down Reinhold. Fatima is having trouble fighting Phantom as he is used to the dark. Carmilla finds Shizuku formidable, But soon the latter gets poisoned by her aphrodisiac and is about to succumb to being her meal. Holmes and Watson are hiding as they have run out of bullets and tricks against a Leicester. Aya asks him about wanting the gem, so he hints that it reveals the clue of finding the werewolves. Talk is cut short when the big man, Professor, shows up. Holmes knows him as James Moriarty. The tide turns as Jack kills off the Lloyd's duo and fights Suguru. Lupin and Phantom escape and are willing to abandon the diamond. This monster is not worth their lives. Moriarty confirms that he has Aya's body but won't give it back because it's a valuable sample. Moriarty is making a comeback and rebuilding his organization after a young man approached him to have a strong body. He is Jack, and that body he wants also needs to be incorporated with monsters. Hence, Moriarty went to do surgery on him in order to get a monster with intelligence, physical strength, and regenerative ability. They went to Japan and got a hold of a few before they went extinct. He extracted cells and injected them into humans, who willingly became their samples. However, many died as the concentration of demons in a human's body was too high. Moriarty tweaked and balanced this on Jack's body. Finally, to get an undead for an immortal body, there was only one in Japan. Aya admits she was experimented with by a sicko 950 years ago and turned into an immortal. To further strengthen Jack's body, he caught Aislinn von Kiridoka, a vampire. The cells implanted into Jack were perfect because not only do they strengthen his body and senses, but they also eliminate all vampires' weaknesses. And now they set their eyes on werewolves, and if they are successful, they will become pioneers in creating the first chimera. Suguru gets beaten by Jack as Jack remembers him as one of the experiments. Seeing he now has the stone, he ends the fight and signals to the rest. Just in time before resisting, Shizuku gets raped by Carmilla. Moriarty leaves and lets them know the name of his new organization, Banquet. When everyone gathers and thinks they lost big this time, Suguru shows them otherwise. Because as a pickpocket, he cut a hole in Jack's pocket, and the diamond is in his hands. Jack is screaming in despair. Looking at the inscription on the diamond, some light-angle ultraviolet thingy reveals the location of the werewolves. 8 years ago, a werewolf seemed to be protecting a young girl, but as they hid in a tower, the mob of villagers burned it all down. Now we see cage users making their way to a remote village in Germany. Suguru is excited to see a werewolf, as he has never seen one. Aya did see one, but it was about 150 years ago when Genai Hiraga brought in several creatures to experiment and see which one could harm her. They soon stumble into Dr. Heinemann, who pleads for their help as a young girl named Louise has been kidnapped by werewolves. He mentions it all started a year ago when the village chief's granddaughter was kidnapped and her body was found with bruises and marks all over in the forest, almost beyond recognition. The same cycle repeats every 4 months as a young girl in this village will meet a gruesome fate. Last night, a commotion was heard from Louise's room, but by the time her father, Gustav, broke down the door, the room was a mess, and it is believed the werewolf fled via window. Heinemann is not surprised at this insanity, as 8 years ago, there was a werewolf that took refuge in this village. They go see the other townspeople arguing with themselves. Gustav wants to kill this monster, but Aya assures her she can help solve this case. So they visit the crime scene as Aya asks questions for alibis and conducts a few series of experiments, like dropping something from the chimney. She comes to the conclusion that the perpetrator purposely made a mess of the room. As there were bloodstains here but none of such outside the window, she believes the culprit brought along something to kidnap Louise in as nothing was stolen from the room. Aya paints a grim picture that Louise is no longer alive. They go visit the village chief, who tells them about the legend mentioning a hidden village at the bottom of the waterfall, Wolfenhale. He isn't confident they can find any werewolves there because they need some keys, like the diamond, to find it. He hints there is no place called the Forest of Teeth, but to find the werewolves' village, they must find the Forest of Teeth. Aya makes a deal that she will solve this case in 2 days, and he will tell them how to find that village. Meanwhile, a pair of cowboy freaks just entered town, Alice Rapidshot and Kyle Chaintail. Aya believes the werewolf is killing not just to satiate its appetite. The chief continues to add that many suspect the werewolf to be the village's outsiders, Heinemann, Seenut, and Alma. He has tested them, and they show no signs of one. Therefore, he believes the werewolf cannot be among the villagers. He further explains how the werewolves are strengthening their bloodline, and now the new generation is immune to silver and holy water. Although you can still burn them, in no time they will be immune to that. He knows a lot about werewolves because of an incident 8 years ago. They took in a mother, Rose, and her child, Jet. But thanks to Louise, they saw through their disguise. The detectives go to talk to Canute, and Louise is viewed as the village's hero for exposing that mother and daughter werewolf pair. In fact, Canute found a pregnant Rose 13 years ago in the forest. He let her stay, thinking she was a maid, and got kicked out after her affair with her master was exposed. Louise discovered the truth because Rose mistook Louise for her daughter and said something about their werewolf ears. The village rallied and burned them down in a tower. Canute knows they are dead because he double-checked and found their charred bones. Next, they visit painter Alma, and Aya can tell she didn't go to painting school from the way she holds her tools, but rather, she is self-taught. Then they return talking to Heinemann as Aya questions Gustav and his wife's treatment of Louise. Because of her clean wheelchair, it indicates she doesn't have much help. She means Louise could be seen as hard to approach. She is after all the village's hero. As for if she ever goes out alone, Heinemann recalls an incident a year ago. She tried to go to Alma's place herself, and the whole village frantically looked for her and found her stuck in the mud. Conversation interrupted as the Lloyds duo came in and started fighting. Aya manages to tell them to back down since she is in the midst of solving the case. Because they'll need the clues to get to the werewolf village. Soon a commotion as the villagers gather outside Alma's place. It seems she cannot control herself as she turns into a werewolf and escapes into the woods. Silver bullets by Lloyds can't damage them. As Suguru fights the beast, Aya gets tossed around. To a point she is about to fall off the waterfall, but Shizuku saves her in time, but she plunges down. The flashback reveals that the village head, Riki, accused Rose of a crime. It seems she wanted to flee and not do this Miko duty she has been assigned. Riki accused her of trying to cut their bloodline, but Rose viewed that by staying here, they would go extinct. Now that Alma has been revealed as the culprit, the village chief reveals how to find the wolf and Hale, and the rest of the clues in the diamond will lead them to it. Now we see Shizuku, surprised to be surrounded by werewolves, Nora, Vera, and Kaya. They found her floating down the stream and took her in. No humans are supposed to be here, so keeping her here is illegal. The ladies then reveal there has been a series of murders too. 3 girls have died during rainy days. The male werewolf group known as the Beast Gang, led by Quint, has been hunting them down, but the perpetrators have not been found due to the rain washing away their smell. Other clues they know are that the culprit has a shotgun that doesn't make a sound. Shizuku talks about Aya, who is a paranormal detective and will be able to help them. However, for Shizuku staying here too long, it will be a danger, so they have to get her out. Nora will lure Beast Gang to a side of the forest while the rest try to sneak her out. But unfortunately, Beast Gang is here as Vera and Kaya try their best to hide Shizuku in the cart. Too bad she is busted, and a short fight ensues until she is surrounded. Vera and Kaya vouch for Shizuku's innocence, even mentioning Nora saving her. Seeing so, Riki decides to hear her out, but also put her to trial. So, high up on this wooden pedestal, if she lies, a wood will come off, and if it collapses midway, she is guilty. So midway through the interrogation, they hear a gunshot. They head to where it comes from, and to their horror, Nora is dead. Shizuku offers to help as she examines around. She can tell the body was killed somewhere before moving here. She also notices multiple shots fired, but only a single shot was heard. Unfortunately, she cannot deduce this mystery, and so Quint announces all intruders will be killed. Tsugaru, Aya, and Lloyd's duo are making their way through this precarious, narrow path when suddenly Victor attacks them. Aya and Tsugaru use this chance to separate themselves from Lloyd's. Victor tells them that Aleister and Carmilla are here, but they can't move during daylight. As insurance, Victor has them hand over the diamond before letting them go. Aya and Tsugaru enter Wolfenhale and meet up with Vera, who then takes them to where Shizuku is being held. They get an update of the happenings and learn the village knows no one by the name of Alma. With time running out, the detectives go to investigate Nora's crime scene, and at the same time, the Beast Gang picks up on their scent. But when they arrive, the detectives are gone. It looks like Aya found a hidden underground passage, the perfect place to hide all gunshot sounds and make werewolves unable to track by scent. With blood trails all over, Aya believes the victims were shot here and then moved outside. They find a shotgun stolen from Gustav's shed a year ago, as well as someone making camp here. Someone has been counting the days too. 550 days, to be exact. Then they find Alma's body, obviously not killed here, as Aya believes both cases are not related. Following the path, it leads back to the human village. They stumble into Heinemann as well as Gustav and his wife. It looks like they found Louise's body. The wife breaks down, thinking this is punishment because they originally planned to abandon Louise 8 years ago. But they changed their minds soon after. Ironically, Jet found and saved her, but Louise exposed her. Aya believes Louise is a smart girl and will do anything to survive. They go back to Wolfenhale as Lloyd's spy on them. However, they won't follow yet and plan to gather all the villagers. The detectives go back to rescue Shizuku. And at this time, the Beast Gang is going to hunt them down, so Tsugaru slowly kills them off one by one. Lloyd's has brought the villagers via the secret path as the humans begin to massacre the werewolves. It's a field day for them as well as a banquet. Aya has Shizuku go rescue Kaya, but it seems that girl has fallen into Carmilla's bite. Alice versus Aleister. Kyle versus Victor. Aya has Vera dig up some final pieces. Now everything is clear to her. Shizuku fights Carmilla in a rematch of their London fight, but it ends in a draw. Kyle has Victor wrapped in his chains, but with Tsugaru's intervention, Kyle gets killed off. As thanks, Victor tells Aya's body is in London. Alice thought she got the better of Aleister, but she got tricked and slowly poisoned to death. With humans and werewolves at a standoff, it is time for Aya to make the big revelation. The perpetrator is a single person. Louise, Nora, and Jet. Louise and Jet swapped personalities. Louise's kidnapping was staged by herself. The broken window was not big enough for a werewolf or adult human to pass through. Bite marks on Tsugaru's leg were identical to those left by fake Louise. The real Alma was killed after the detectives left. As the crime cannot be done by humans because of the underground cave, when you walk through it with light, all the moths will scatter about. So the only one who can walk through the dark is a werewolf. The underground space was a place where Louise once lived. When Rose was burned, she let Jet escape via the underground path. She then took on the name Nora and lived in the werewolf village. It is possible for her to play both roles, seeing the human and werewolf villages are not in contact with each other. Aya had Vera dig up Nora's grave, but it was empty. Then, when Louise's body was found, the wounds were exactly the same as Nora's body. To cover the gunshot wound, she nibbled it randomly to make it seem like a werewolf attack before moving it to the human village. 8 years ago, when Rose came to the human village and lived as one, Louise then found out about Jet's identity, which led to that persecution. But Jet survived and her bones were just some random fox. Jet has her reason for revenge, as she hated both villages, so she planned to instigate both villages to fight each other. A year ago, when Louise supposedly went missing, she was actually captured by Nora. Louise accepted her fate and conspired with Nora for this plan, as they both look the same. Nora disguised herself as Alma so as to save Shizuku and prove her innocence, including the staging of Nora's death in the forest by killing the real Louise and then draped her with her own blood. Then she moved Louise's body to the human village and left open the door for humans to come to Wolfenhale. Riki is willing to forgive all of Nora's sins, but this is farewell. She isn't coming back, much to Granny's dismay. Tsugaru has been waiting underground to capture Nora. After he does so, Aya wants him to release her. She feels she has made an error in her deduction because her goal wasn't revenge, but rather to save her fellow brethren to become Miko, vessels to become vessels for that perfected werewolf. The dead werewolf girls were Miko potentials, so she faked their deaths to let them escape since her brethren were so fixated on that perfect being. Though it is true that she actually killed a few human girls, Aya still lets her go, seeing she too shares the same feelings of a girl trapped in a cage. Nora accepts this outcome and will find a happy place to live. In the aftermath, Tsugaru wonders if Aya took too long to solve this case to teach both sides a lesson. She believes nothing will happen to both villages after what happened. Tsugaru tells Aya about her body in London, so this might be where they are heading next.